It's August 29, 2025. And today I'm going to do the first in a series of tour videos on my Allied Princess 36 Seaquestor. Today I'm going to look at the on-deck details of the boat, and then we'll move on to others. Now, why am I doing these? Well, some people have been interested in the boat and just how it's rigged, and also I'm thinking that it's not going to be long before we put the boat up for sale, so I want to have some documentation of the condition and equipment on the boat. Okay, let's get going. Okay, this is Seaquestor. She is a 1973 Allied Princess 36 Ketch, built in Catskill, New York by the Allied Boat Company. And that makes her 52 and a bit years old right now. She is hull number 8 of about 140 Allied Princesses. Okay, let's take a look at her. As I said, she's 36 feet length on deck. That does not include the bowsprit, which would add, and the anchor, which would add about 2 feet. And has a beam of 11 feet and a draft of 4.5 feet. Okay, so let's take a look at her bow to stern as I walk aft. First thing you're going to see up here is the anchor roller, which is an integral anchor roller. It is welded to the bow iron on the boat, so basically it's part of it. And the anchor is a Danforth plow, 35-pound plow anchor. It's a copy by Danforth Anchors of a CQR, and it works just fine. Next you'll see is the Genoa. It's on a Hood Sea Furl SL roller furler, which also acts for reefing the sail. It's a single line furler. I put that on the boat in 1997. It isn't as old as it looks in terms of overall condition, because I have rebuilt it several times. I've put new bearings in it, and I have replaced components as they wore, and it works just fine, just like it did when it was brand new. Okay, let's move back a little bit. We'll go on deck and get the rest of the on-deck features. Up forward there, and here on top of the cabin house, there is a hatch. That hatch is, I believe, original to the boat, and I have taken it apart though and had it off the boat and cleaned it up and rebedded it, painted the inside. It's a cast aluminum hatch, so it's very sturdy. Not brand new by any means, but it works and doesn't leak. Now, moving aft, we see the main mast. The main mast on this boat is 40 feet long. It is deck stepped, and where it's stepped, some years ago I opened the cabin house up and removed rotted balsa core under the mast and rebuilt it with solid fiberglass. So there's about 1 inch of fiberglass in the rectangle under the mast, so that is not going anywhere. The mast has 2 inches on it. This side has an old Lumar winch. I think it's a 16, that single speed for the Genoa halyard, and on the other side is the main halyard winch, which is a Variant 22 stainless steel 2-speed winch. Variants use a different numbering system for winches, so that's the equivalent to a modern 40 series winch. That used to be one of the main sheet winches that I replaced with self-tailing winches not that long after I got the boat. Now let's continue moving aft on the cabin top. Here we have a Dorade box or Dorada box, and that is a day-night solar vent set up to exhaust air from the head. So that keeps the head fresh by exhausting air out of there 24 hours a day. Further back is another day-night solar vent. This is a brand new one. I put it on there about 3 weeks ago, and it because the old one, which dated back to before I got this boat, had died. So that is, as I said, a brand new day-night solar vent on the cabin top, and that exhausts air out of the main salon. On the other side is another Dorada box. Years ago, the cowl vent for that got caught by a jib sheet and went over the side, and I have never replaced it. Instead, I use that to hold the winch handle for the halyard winches on the mainmast. There are cabin top handrails on both sides. These are teak. They are through bolted to matching handrails inside the boat. And moving aft a little more, the boat has two 20-watt solar panels wired in parallel. They go to an MPPT charge controller, and they keep the batteries up at float most of the time. And they'll put out on a nice sunny day almost 20 amp hours into the batteries. Now those are small panels, two 20-watt panels, because they date to when I first got interested in solar, and I bought one of those panels just as an experiment and liked the result, and then ended up buying the second one just to up the capacity. There is room for a modern rectangular 100-watt panel, which would really keep the battery bank up at full charge. Now, moving a little further aft, we've got the spray hood for the companionway, and that fitting, stainless steel fitting, just this side of the spray hood between it and the handrail is half of the mounting for the main sheet. And I don't have the main sheet on right now. It is a mid-boom sheeting system, and the reason I don't have it on is I don't have the main boom on. I'll come back to that in a little bit. Now, moving aft, but I do have the sheet. Moving aft is a Dodger. That Dodger is currently 5 years old, and it is locally made. I wasn't super happy with how well it fit, so I won't go back to that guy. I also won't name him, but it is fine. It does work, and the isinglass in it is a little cloudy looking. That's just because it needs to be cleaned. It is completely clear and unscratched. Okay, let's move aft a little bit. Here is one of two gates in the lifelines. There's another one in the same place on the other side, and this has bare stainless steel lifelines I put on about 8 years ago, and they're in pretty good shape, although I might replace the wire in a year or two. Okay, now moving aft, we can see one of the two self-tailing winches that I put on the boat. These are Anderson ST40 stainless steel self-tailing winches. These are very high quality winches. In my opinion, the best winches you can buy. And these are a little different than a lot of winches you'll find on a boat this size, in that you see the little black rectangle aft of the winch. That is the control, because these are electric winches. And just below the winches is the fill for the water tank. As we move further aft, you can see we've got an antenna that is a GPS antenna connected to the NMEA 2000 bus in the system, and that goes to the chart plotter and is fully functional. It's a backup for the internal one on the chart plotter. Now let's move forward again. We've got a stainless steel push bit back here and a boarding ladder back aft. Now moving forward again, that's one of the original Schaefer aluminum cleats. That's through bolted to a backing plate inside. And we'll move forward. We'll see the tow rail here. It's about 2.5 inches high. And here is a Schaefer 8-inch aluminum cleat, again through bolted to a stainless steel backing plate. And that is a cleat that I added because the Allied Princess did not come with a Midships cleat. And so when we started keeping the boat at the marina, it became clear that we needed a place to secure spring lines. Okay, and I missed this fitting here. See, it says waste. That is the fitting for the pump out of the holding tank. There's the mizzen mast. Mizzen mast is also deck stepped, and I've also removed the core underneath the mizzen mast in the cockpit sole. It is a 30-foot long aluminum mast, and the mizzen sail is under the sail cover. The sail cover is relatively new and in good shape, although there are a couple spots where it could use a little restitching. Okay, well, let's go aboard. Okay, we're forward again. Up there you can see the furler and the anchor. The anchor has 120 feet of 1/4 inch HT chain, high test chain, spliced to 200 feet of 1/2 inch 3-strand nylon rode. There's plenty of anchoring capability, and that is a Lumar 1000 windlass. And on either side you can see the foot switches for it. There's a cowl vent to ventilate the anchor locker, and 2 hose pipes that go into the anchor locker, and then inboard of the hose pipes there are the primary mooring cleats. Between them you can see 4 white spots on the deck. That's where there used to be an aluminum mooring cleat that the boat came with. I removed that years ago and put these 15-inch stainless steel mooring cleats on, and they are of course through bolted to backing. Okay, now what's this white rectangles? Well, over the last couple of years I've noticed that the foredeck had gotten pretty soft and springy, which indicated that it was probably wet core. So what I did starting last fall was I removed these pieces of the foredeck and then cut out the wet core underneath them, which was balsa core, and replaced that core with Divinycell foam core, and then epoxied those panels back down. The white paint there is just to protect the epoxy in the seams so that sun wouldn't deteriorate it. This fall and next spring I'm going to open up the rest of the foredeck right up to the bow, or the blue part anyway, and recore that with foam core. In order to do that I have to take the cleats and the windlass and the hose pipes and the cowl vent and everything off, and I will do that, but I can't really do it while the boat's at the marina because I need to be able to tie the boat up, and if there are no cleats I can't really do that. So that will be redone this year, and when I'm finished with that, my intention is to put new non-skid down. I'm probably going to use Kiwi grip non-skid to replace the existing non-skid on the entire boat. I missed one fitting here. Just after that cowl vent is a stainless steel fitting with a black cap on it. That is the outlet for the washdown pump, which can be turned on. You can put a hose with a sprayer on it and use it to rinse off the chain and the anchor after you anchor. Okay, let's go back aft. You'll notice that the bulwark here is bare, just white fiberglass. Now that used to have a piece of teak on it like it does underneath the Genoa track there that I removed and fiberglassed up all the screw holes because there were some leaks and it was a bit of an issue. And also the teak had been sanded so many times over the years that all of the screws were exposed. Now this stainless steel fitting on the cabin top is the chimney for the Dickinson P12000 propane fireplace. Here's a Genoa track. There's a matching one on the other side with a car there, and more lifelines and the gate. And we'll move back into the cockpit. Before we go all the way back though, I want to point out the winches. Again, the Anderson 40 ST electric winch here. Just after that is an Anderson 12 ST winch, which has the Genoa furling line on it. That's a single speed, all stainless steel winch, except for the black plastic disc on top. Very nice winch. As we go into the cockpit, see that there are teak cockpit combings that I normally keep varnished. This year, because of health issues, I didn't get to it, but they look pretty good when they're properly varnished. Now back aft, we have the mizzen sheet back there, and topping lift up here for the mizzen. I have replaced the line on the sheet. The topping lift is on the list for this winter, and I do have the line to do it, so it's just a matter of sitting down and doing up the necessary splices. And back here we have the mizzen sail. I'll go over the sails separately in a little bit. Now let's look down here. There's a, just after the steering wheel, there's a rectangular hatch. That is access to the Edson worm gear steering. Yes, this is worm gear steering. That's why the shaft on the wheel faces aft. Worm gear steering has a characteristic that when you set it at a particular position, it stays there until you turn it again. So that makes sailing the boat single-handed quite easily. I just balance the boat up and let go of the wheel, and I don't have to touch it for as long as I want, basically. Okay, on the cockpit seat here aft on the port side, some people say that looks like a toilet seat. That's actually a Trident propane locker. It's fully vented, has a remote solenoid valve in it, and there is an 11-pound propane tank that I just filled. Down below that on the cockpit well is a single lever shifter for the transmission, and it also controls the throttle. And over here on the other side is a manual bilge pump that goes down into the bilge under the engine. There are cockpit drains on each side that go to Wilcox Crittenden bronze Seacocks. Here in the back of the cabin house we have a depth and speed instrument. It also gives water temperature. And below that there's a pad eye that's through bolted that you can snap into if conditions get a little sporty. There is a clinometer underneath the companionway there for indicating how much the boat is heeled, and a compass in the bulkhead on the other side. That is a Danforth gimbaled compass, and it works just fine. Now on the cabin top, we have the other old variant 22 2-speed stainless steel winch. It used to be one of the primary sheet winches. It is now rigged up to be the main sheet winch, and you can cleat off the main sheet on that aluminum cleat. Okay, the cockpit itself is almost 10 feet long. There's plenty of room for people. I've had up to 6 people in here, and it wasn't particularly crowded. So that pretty much covers on deck here on Seaquestor. I'm going to get off the boat and we'll look at and talk a little bit about the sails. And I realize I forgot to mention the port lights. There are 2 large fixed port lights aft. They're aluminum, and I have had them off and rebedded them. And then there are 3 opening ports. These are good heavy-duty aluminum ports. They all open. The forward one is in the V-berth, the middle one is in the head, and this is in the main salon. And they have my homemade screens on them. Looks like I could replace a couple of them. And what about sails? Currently I do not have the main on the boat, and that was a conscious decision I made. I'm not as limber as I used to be, and I don't like to leave the cockpit when the boat's underway. So to minimize that, I simply stopped sailing with the main, and then a couple years later I stopped putting the main boom on. Of course, I still have the main and the main boom. So and I have all the rigging for it as well. Now let's go forward here. As I said, that's a Hood Sea Furl SL, and on there is Raleigh Tasker 130% roller furling Genoa with a foam luff. And that sail has probably only been used about 30 times altogether since I bought it. So it is a very nice sail, and it's in basically almost new condition. Now as we go back, the mainsail, which is at home in my garage, is a Fortune sail that the previous owner had made for the boat. Now I have used the mainsail maybe 10 times since we bought the boat 30 years ago, and so it's still in pretty good shape. I had it out of the bag last spring, and the sailcloth still seems pretty crispy and nice. It is a 1987 sail though, and it could use some restitching, but I think the cloth itself is sound, so that's not really an issue. It's usable after a little restitching until you get ready to spend the $2,500 or more that a new sail would cost. Now moving back aft, I have a relatively new sail cover. I had that made about 5-6 years ago at the local sail loft, which has since closed. Very nice quality though, and that covers up a Raleigh Tasker that dates from about 2005, so it's 20 years old, and it is one of the 2 workhorse sails on the boat. Now the thing with that sail is, when I had it made, I used to like to sail in heavy air whenever I could. So I had that sail built. It's a 94 square foot mizzen. I had it built out of 9-ounce sailcloth, so it is like a plank. The sailcloth is still in very good shape, and it doesn't even really have any stitching issues yet, although it wouldn't hurt to look it over and maybe restitch it. It doesn't really need replacing, but you know, it's something somebody might want to do. I was out sailing with it yesterday and it worked fine. It does have a set of reef points in it, which gives you an indication of how I like to use it with lots of wind, and I have reefed it down. So those are the sails, And that is Seaquestor. I should say the main mast, deck stepped again, is 40 feet long, and the bridge clearance to the top of the mast is 46 feet, and maybe another 2 feet for the VHF antenna. Now, what about the standing rigging? I've replaced all the standing rigging on the mizzen, including the turnbuckles, about 15 years ago. Up here in Maine, standing rigging lasts a long time because the boat spends most of its time in storage with the masts down. And on the main mast, I've replaced the backstay, the forestay, and the cap shrouds. And I intend this year probably to replace the lowers, although they're in good shape, no issues with them, just that they cost about $800 to do the 4 of them. I have, however, replaced all of the turnbuckles on the shrouds. I did the 4 turnbuckles on the lowers this spring, so those are brand new Hain turnbuckles, very good quality. And I replaced the cap shrouds about 3 years ago, and when I did that, I also replaced the turnbuckles. And the other thing is the chain plates. I have replaced the chain plates, and the old ones were fine, but just put new ones in just because. Okay, so that pretty much gives you an idea of what Seaquestor is like on deck. It's a fiberglass hull with internal lead ballast. This one is supposed to have 5,000 pounds of lead ballast in a single casting, dropped into the hull and glassed over. When I bought the boat, the previous owner had hit a rock, and they didn't go all the way through the fiberglass, but I did grind it back and repair it, and the fiberglass at the leading edge of the keel is on the order of 2 inches thick, so it's plenty sturdy. Okay, Allieds have a reputation for being very sturdy boats, and I will be talking about the sailing characteristics of this boat a little later on in another video. Okay, that wraps up my on-deck look at Seaquestor, my 1973 Allied Princess 36.